this is how the colonizers looked at India, precisely how the current dispensation is looking at India. This is the colonizers' way of looking at India. कि एक language होगा जो कि हिंदी होगा, right? एक consolidated religion होगा, as opposed to the diversity that is there in India. Within Hinduism, the kind of diversity that is there, that religion will have one book. This is the colonizers' way of looking at India. That there was an ancient, glorious past that actually fell down. There is a word for it. It's called Orientalism.
One of the arguments in favor of this is that, in favor of removing symbols of colonizers, is that Indians for far too long have mentally felt inferior. And that we need to give our people a sense of pride in their own people, in their own history, in their own icons. So, how do you view that? The feeling that there is a deep-seated inferiority in all of us. We still aren't a confident nation when it comes to, taking pride in our own icons.
See, I would never argue against the idea of decolonization because I do think it is important and there is a way in which to do it. But which is actually what I want to ask Fahad, because this doesn't seem to be the way. And I feel like in the grand scheme of things that the government is erasing in the name of decolonization, I find this moving of a bus to be fairly insignificant. I find what is more important is the greater narrative that they're trying to portray.
इस टाइम पर इंडियन जो पॉलिटिक्स थी उसमें Indians already started having a share. दादाभाई नौरोजी लेट 19th सेंचुरी में एमपी हो चुके थे लंदन में और काउंसिल्स एक्ट पास हो चुका था. 1909 में मॉर्लोमेंटो रिफॉर्म्स हो गए जिसमें we got seats, Indians got seats. The British government was facing pressure from rising Indian anti-colonial politics. So Lord Hardinge was very careful. So he asked him ki, look, nothing doing, you will have to go around, study architecture of India and come up with something, and I quote him, that people can relate to. So that Indians, he said verbatim, so that Indians don't feel ignored in these buildings. Not out of the goodness of anyone's heart, but this was because that was the political condition at the time. Isliye maine in my piece for Express, I said this, that we made Lutyens our own. It was our politics that created the condition that he then went and studied.
Are we also right now hedging too much on the idea that Benjamin Netanyahu may be the leader for, ever? And so it doesn't matter if there's opposition in Israel, if there's a lot of discomfort within that country over what has happened over the last 2 years, but that Modi gets along with him, and so then this is how our relationships are going to be. It's going to be...
Well, thanks. You are pointing at the leadership factor, and every foreign policy formulation has its limitations. And we are seeing that limitation also play out in the Trump-Modi chemistry that played out a few years ago when it turned into Ab Ki Baar Trump Sarkar campaign. It appeared to be playing nicely, but then we saw what happened subsequently. So these so-called formulations don't really have all-time viability because there is a limitation to these formulations as well. If you heard what Prime Minister Modi has spoken in Israel, especially in yesterday's speech, he talked about terrorism in all its forms and manifestations. So when you talk about terrorism in all its forms and manifestations from a foreign soil, it acquires a little different connotation because there are different kinds of terrorisms that exist in the world. For the Israelis, Hamas is a terror group, Hezbollah is a terror group. But for the Iranians, neither Hamas nor Hezbollah is a terror group, because what's happening here is that by talking about terrorism in all its forms and manifestations, you are indirectly hinting at what Netanyahu describes as the Shiite angle.
Angrez apna lagan aur Newslaundry apna hafta kabhi nahi chhodte. I'm going to be your host for this week because Abhinandan has some important work to attend to. We have had a very, very action-packed news week. Crackdown on shirtless protesters. We've had a very high-profile visit by the Prime Minister to Israel, and we are also aggressively decolonizing our cities. So we're going to be discussing all of that this week. We have Fahad Zuberi with us. I'm going to introduce him in a bit, but before that, a bit of some announcements. NL has turned 14. So we are 14 years old, well into our teenage years, and we're celebrating our happy birthday this whole month. This is the last week of February, and you can really join us in our celebrations, support Newslaundry, support all the endeavors that we've done over the past 14 years by showing us your love and contributing to us, subscribing to Newslaundry. There's a QR code on your screen right now. You can click on it, you can scan it, or you can click the payment link below and support Newslaundry. Remember that we've been completely ad-free for the past 14 years. It's no mean feat. We've done this thanks to you, so we need you to keep supporting us. We have a new NL Sena project, which is by Alpana Kishore. It's about the redevelopment in Kashi, what the people think about it there, what the idea of religious tourism is doing to a city. And it explores quite a few themes around religion, spirituality, change in, what the city looks like, because you need to develop it as a major spiritual religious hub now. So it will explore all these angles. You can contribute to that NL Sena project. We have also Let's Talk About on RSS. This is done by Shardul, right? Abhinandan has hosted it and Shardul has written it.
It is written by a bunch of people.
Written by a bunch of people, but it explores RSS and its remarkable journey. A lot of people interviewed in it from the RSS, former RSS workers. Shardul himself is somebody who says that he was with the RSS as a kid, at least. I don't know, in adulthood.
You're sounding so vague.
Sorry. Well, he keeps saying that I know these people very well. I'm with the RSS.
Shardul grew up with the RSS. So this was a multi-episode podcast series where we wanted to deep dive into the RSS's growth, its influence, the role it's played in independent India, so on and so forth. So it includes interviews with Shardul, with former Sangh members, with current Sangh members, with historians, basically to sort of piece together the role that this so-called cultural organization has played in India. So you must listen to it. We did it a few years ago, but it is worth revisiting every single time you see a headline on what the RSS is saying or what it's doing. For example, there was a story last week which said that as we know, Tamil Nadu elections are coming, and the BJP is really hoping to sort of make inroads and so on and so forth. And so the really big key meeting that the BJP had was held at RSS headquarters in Chennai. So that is the amount of influence that this organization is playing in every single part of politics. So you must listen to it.
So you can celebrate our 14th birthday by subscribing to us, and you can celebrate RSS's 100 years by listening to LTA. We
what
have
a celebration.
So much celebration. Celebration for you. In-house, we have Anand Vardhan. Hi, Anand. Jayashree, of course, joining us from Chennai.
Hello.
And Fahad Zuberi joining us from Boston.
Hi.
An old Newslaundry comrade, should we say that? We've reported
I'm Newslaundry's on-call architect.
Oh, yes, you are actually. Every time there's something related to architecture, we call you. It's a very beautiful piece in Indian Express today by Swapna Little, which says that he was quite a skeptic when it came to, he didn't want to really blend elements of Indian architecture into his work. He wasn't really fond of it. But when he came here, he went on this travel tour, and then he inculcated a lot of elements of Indian architecture into his final creation. And he wrote this letter saying that he was very pleased that he's finally built something for Indians and something which is very Indian. But anyway, this decision ostensibly was taken because we're on this path to decolonize our minds and our spirits. That's the justification that the government gives us. So, Fahad, tell us what you think of it.
And he was not a British officer. That is special about Lutyens. The guy who designed Connaught Place, Robert Torr Russell, he was actually the chief architect of Public Works Department that later became CPWD. He was a British officer. Lutyens was a professional. While he was doing Delhi, he was doing private residences also. He was doing several other war memorials also. He was that professional who was not joining the state, was building state. So British state for him was a client. He was an independent professional. I think this story is important, that we should not paint him as this, despotic colonizer. Of course, he held uske kai sare beliefs aise the that were the beliefs of the British at the time. But he's an independent professional who changes himself when he was given the project. And he did a sincere job, honest job at it.
I feel like this is one of those series of non-issues they're trying to escalate into issues like first Vande Mataram, now this. I think Modi's great decolonization project has involved stuff like, okay, they've renamed Racecourse Road, they moved this bus. Draupadi Murmu was once called they refer to her as the President of Bharat and not President of India. And I feel like all these parts are making together a whole, and it is that whole that I am more concerned about. I saw this truly bizarre press release this week that was released on the occasion of the first meeting of the Union Cabinet at the new Prime Minister's office, which they're calling Save Our Teeth, right? And instead of putting the date as 24th February 2026 or whatever, they wrote Yugabda 5127, Vikram Samvat 2082, Shaka Samvat 1947, in the month of Falguna Shukla Paksha on the day of Ashtami. And I think this is also supposed to be part of this great movement to our traditional roots, but I just don't think it is.
I will give you an example. Let's think about cities, for example. You know, one of our most prominent anti-colonial leaders, they were all mayors. They started as mayors. Sardar Patel was a mayor of Ahmedabad, 1919, 1922, 24, 27. Nehru was mayor of Allahabad, 23 to 25. And you know who else was the mayor? C. Rajagopalachari. He was a mayor, and he was a mayor for 2 years, 1917 to 19. Initially, जब British ने municipal corporations बनाए थे, which was Calcutta 1726 के around, Bombay 1726, 1688 Madras Municipal Corporation, they had given all the powers to appointed officers, civil servants. And these people actually entered these municipal corporations and started non-cooperation politics from inside. So Sardar Patel, Nehru, C. Rajagopalachari being mayors really troubled the British. But so the British did not want to give them a veto power. They were just like a ceremonial council. And we have continued with that.
Yeah.
British gave power to civil servants, to district magistrates, to municipal commissioner over the mayors to make sure that Indian anti-colonial leaders cannot do their politics in municipal commissions. And we have continued that. Aaj aap puchte hain, who's the mayor of New York? You know the name. Who's the mayor of London? You know the name. Who's the mayor of Delhi? Who's the mayor of Bombay?
I think within the broader discourse of decolonization, what does it say is that reorientation of state memory. So if, say, someone who was commissioned by an imperial authority to build this building, it becomes, in the decolonization context, an embodiment, a special embodiment of that imperial authority, his bust. That is one prism of, and two, one of the ways in which decolonization theory is practiced is to seize the narrative back, and architectural narrative and other kinds of narrative. So in that it fits in. Second is also repositioning the indigenous, say, statesmen or heroes, or instead of even apolitical, just like Mr. Lutyens was apolitical. He was not a political figure, but just because he was carrying out the orders of an imperial authority, he is collated as such.
I want to dispel one myth that has been going around everywhere, that somehow Lutyens was inspired by some temple in Madhya Pradesh to design the parliament, which is not true. Number one, Lutyens did not design the parliament, it was Baker. Number two, we have no evidence that he ever traveled to that area, and it is not because his travels were highly catalogued. And third, the first design that Baker actually did for the parliament was actually triangular, very similar to the new parliament, very similar. A tripartite system, so he did that. So I think it is important to, because some very well-meaning people told me that it was actually inspired from that, which is not true.
Why did he change
actually,
it? Why did he change his decision from a triangle?
Lutyens made him do it.
Okay.
Lutyens said that I want the parliament to appear the same from all sides, wherever you approach it from. And the only shape that can do it is cylinder. And then he wanted to give like a tribute to the Colosseum because he was a classicist. So Baker was very unhappy because he had to put the corridor at the circumference of the circle, which is the worst possible place you can put a corridor because that's the longest path. So Royal Institute of British Architects में उसका मजाक उड़ाते थे लोग. They used to say, now that you have created such a horrible circulation, might as well put a tram around it in the corridor so that people can get around.
Can you tell us firstly what it means for us to have elevated ties now as special strategic partners? What does that mean in tangible terms?
Well, I think, if you look at India-Israel relation, it's already very special.
Now it's special.
Yes, exactly. I mean, the relationship touches almost all aspects of Indian economy and security. So I think, how much more elevation can a relationship attain? That's something that only future will tell us. But if you look at the outcome documents that were published yesterday, something that really stands out is that these agriculture research centers that Israel has been working in India, these will now go to the village level. So in Israel's reach and the access that Israeli companies and Israeli state authorities will get in India is truly unprecedented because India is going to open up the rural sector for Israeli agriculture research.
The visit itself was so unhinged that honestly, as much as you know that it is, I find it horrifying, disgusting, and utterly unsurprising that India has thrown its full support behind Israel, but also it is such an embarrassment to watch. I mean, from him descending the stairs of the airplane and Netanyahu pointing out the color of Sarah Netanyahu's shirt, saying she's also wearing saffron, to Netanyahu surprising Modi by wearing Indian clothes. And of course, the entire media said, oh, Netanyahu is wearing a Modi jacket. It's a Nehru jacket. Like, it's okay. We can call it that. It doesn't take away from the fact that it's an Indian jacket. To that absolutely made up award that he was given. This is the first time we have never heard of this award before. They have pulled it out of a hat and instituted it so that Modi can stand and then everybody will clap and say Modi, Modi, and then he speaks.
So this is his third visit to Israel as a political leader. And of course, the second visit as the Prime Minister of India. But what really stands out is that, there have been earlier, say, agriculture scientists have visited Israel in the 1970s. In fact, Sharad Pawar's elder brother, I think Appa Sahib Pawar, was one of the early agriculture reformers and scientists who visited Israel. So these were visits that happened at a particular context. What's happening today is that there is a Prime Minister level visit from the Indian side at a time when Gaza Strip is in front of us. It's a total genocide that's happening in Gaza Strip. One can't really deny it. On the other hand, you have these very aggressive expansion of the Jewish settlements in West Bank. And we are not really talking about these issues. If you look at the speeches of the Prime Minister in the last 3 days, there is a very minor mention, of course, almost like apologetic mention of the Palestine issue. Whereas the Palestine issue is being, discussed all over the world because of the situation in Gaza Strip and West Bank. So I think this particular context makes this visit really stand out among all the visits that one can imagine that have taken place. Would be Rajesh Mishra's visit in the late 1990s after the nuclear test, or so many other visits that have happened, but never a visit has taken place in such a context when Gaza and West Bank have been in this condition.
Yeah, and I think they very much also are doubling down on the fact that there is some sort of personal.
बस मुफ्त में इतना ही मिलेगा. For the full uncut podcast, subscribe to Newslaundry and pay to keep news free. The best way to listen to the Hafta and indeed all our podcasts is through the Newslaundry app. You can download the app by clicking on the links given in the show notes. So do download our app and get the best podcast experience. And also pay for news and support a new news media ecosystem that Newslaundry is trying to encourage, where we are accountable to you because we run on contributions that you make. We don't take government ads, we don't take corporations ads, so that news serves the public, because when the public pays, the public is served. Subscribe to Newslaundry, click on the link in the show notes below and proudly say, I pay to keep news free.